Here's the mistake that most people make. They fight every negative thought exactly the same way, through positive thinking or affirmations or mindset work. They think, we'll just stay positive. But that's like using one strategy to deal with a hawk or a wolf or a snake. See, different predators hunt differently, which means that they have to be recognized differently. I'm Dr. Oscar Perez, the soul recovery specialist. Over the years, I've helped hundreds of visionary entrepreneurs, leaders, and healers recognize the hidden forces that are quietly draining their confidence, their creativity, their energy, their relationships, and their life force. Inside the soul recovery system, we learn that naming the predator changes your relationship with it. Because once something has a name, it becomes much harder for it to hide. It gives you something to grab onto so that you can recognize it and do something about it. So today, we're going to meet three of them. One, the mocker, is the one that mocks you and others. The tempter is the one that tempts you towards what's destructive for you and others. And the internal enemy, the one that chooses violence against yourself and against others. You'll learn how each one hunts, what emotions it feeds on, and how to stop mistaking it for yourself. The first one is the mocker. In the Toltec language, in Nahuatl, we call it mokekeloa, or the one that mocks. Its entire strategy is humiliation. It whispers things like, you look stupid. You'll never succeed. Who do you think you are? And you're not good enough. You got to understand this. Its goal isn't your improvement. Its goal is your paralysis. Mokekeloa never inspires excellence. It destroys your courage. This is usually the loudest predator right before you launch the business or publish the work or raise your prices or have a difficult conversation, and especially before you finally start living your life purpose. Imagine trying to plant a garden while someone follows you around all day, pulling every seed out of the ground. Eventually, you stop planting, not because you can't, but because you're convinced that there's no point. Start noticing every sentence that begins with things like, who do you think you are? That voice, it has a name now. But criticism is only one strategy. The second predator doesn't attack you at all. It tempts you. It's the one that does whatever it wants, and we call it moneneki. Moneneki doesn't attack. It tempts you away from doing what is good for you, what's going to help you grow. It says, you can skip that workout today, or one drink won't matter, or you can start tomorrow, or just scroll a little longer, like forget it. And here's the key. It isn't interested in one bad decision. It's interested in making those decisions habits. Self-sabotage almost never feels destructive in the moment. It feels comforting. Most people, they don't ruin their lives overnight. They slowly abandon themselves through thousands of tiny choices. Imagine that you're steering a ship, but you're going just 1 degree off course. You don't notice it today. You barely notice it next week. But years later, you're an entire continent away from where you thought you were headed. That's moneneki. So ask yourself, what small compromise do I keep calling harmless? And how is it taking me off track to the life I really want to live? The next predator is the most exhausting of all. We call it the internal enemy, or yaok. Yaok loves conflict, arguments, resentment, revenge, imaginary battles, replaying what someone said and rehearsing what you're going to say next time, holding on to grudges. It's the battlefield of your imagination. Yaok wins every battle that you fight in your head. Many people spend hours every week arguing with someone who isn't even in the room. And meanwhile, their life sits untouched. They don't actually do anything to move forward. Imagine burning your own house down because you're angry at your neighbor. Well, that's what resentment does. Notice the conversations that you keep replaying in your head. Then ask yourself, who actually benefits from them? Now, here's what almost nobody realizes. If you've already recognized one of these predators in yourself, subscribe for more. This is one video in a series about the predators of the mind. Every week, we will explore the inner world, soul recovery, the flowering war, and the practical wisdom that you need to become the leader that your deep nature has been preparing you to become. Here's the next thing. The predators, they always hunt together. They aren't isolated voices. They hunt as a pack. So the mocker attacks your confidence. The tempter offers you an escape, and the internal enemy keeps you emotionally trapped. And together, they exhaust you and drain your life force. One predator distracts you, but all three together consume you. So watch what happens after you make a mistake. First, Mokekeloa criticizes you. Then, Moneneki says, forget it. Then Yao starts replaying every conversation that is connected to it. It's one event, but it's three hunters. So think about wolves. When they're hunting, one of them will distract, the other circles, and the other attacks. But they all cooperate. So do these. Here's a pattern that I've seen again and again. The greater your potential, the greater the internal resistance that you'll encounter. Why? Because black sheep turn visionaries. They're trying to create something new. New businesses, new families, new communities, new movements. They're breaking patterns. Well, the predators, they don't fear mediocrity. They fear people becoming fully alive. So the resistance grows in proportion to your purpose. The bigger your purpose, the bigger the resistance. The brightest fire attracts the strongest wind. So here's what you have to stop. First, you have to stop calling every destructive thought me. Some of them aren't yours. Some of them belong to the predators. Second, stop trying to defeat criticism with more criticism. Self-attack never creates freedom. Third, stop feeding the predators with endless overthinking. Observation weakens them, but stewing in it, that feeds them. You need to start naming the predator when it shows up and just recognize it. You can even come up with your own names for them so that every time the mocker, the tempter, or the internal enemy shows up, you can label it and just say, I see you. Now, be really aware of the fact that shame, blame, and guilt are their signature. You need to start learning how to recognize them before you respond. Like, get your feet on the ground, reconnect to your center, be aware of your breath, and then act. Don't react. Here's what to do tonight. Take a blank sheet of paper and draw 3 columns. Label them according to each of the predators and replay your day. And ask yourself which predator showed up. What did it say? How did my body feel in response to it? What action did it try to influence? And then pick a different course of action that is life-affirming for you and write it down. Don't judge yourself for having these predators show up. Instead, become the tracker that recognizes them and transforms their behavior. The more familiar you become with them as voices in your head, the more powerful you become to not allow them to stir your behavior. The predators, they're powerful for one reason, because they remain anonymous. But once you recognize them and can call them by a name and understand how they hunt, they lose one of their greatest advantages. Because awareness completely changes the relationship. You stop saying, I'm broken, and you start saying, the one that mocks is here. You stop saying, I have no discipline, and you start saying, the tempter is trying to pull me towards comfort. You stop saying, I'll never let this go, and you begin recognizing that the internal enemy is trying to keep you stuck in that inner battle. That shift may seem small. It isn't. It's the beginning of reclaiming authority over your inner world. It is the beginning of becoming the hunter instead of the hunted. If this video gave language to something that you've experienced your entire life, subscribe and share it with someone who's always felt like they were fighting an invisible battle inside of themselves. And if you're ready to go beyond just recognizing the predators and start reclaiming your life from them, watch the free Soul Recovery Masterclass. The link is below. I'll show you how to not only recognize the predators of the mind, but understand what's behind it. Understand about soul loss, ancestral healing, and how all of these things are interconnected with your relationship to nature. And how the soul recovery system helps Black sheep turn visionaries, entrepreneurs, and healers stop living under the rule of fear and start leading from their deepest inner nature.